Gundam.tk presents Gundam Zabanya. What's up again, everybody? Robert184, Gundam.tk. Don't forget to check out the earlier parts to see the deboxing and the parts themselves, but let's put these together and make Gundam Zabanya 1/144th from the high-grade Gundam 00 series from the movie Awakening of the Trailblazer. For the build itself, make sure you've got this part on the right way, attach the two legs, and then slide this into the waist section. Pop the arms into each shoulder socket, and then just attach this part onto the ball joint here. And of course, now you are ready to see Gundam Zabanya. And you know what, it's interesting, because usually when I look at a model the first time I put it together like this, I'm usually impressed with the way it looks. And for this one, maybe it's just the fact that he's in a bad pose here, but really there is nothing too exciting going on. He's got the green packs just sort of slapped all over willy-nilly style. And though I think that really adds to the military type effect that Gunadm and Gunadm have always had going on for it, this Gundam just by itself, without the holsters on, doesn't seem to do very much for me aesthetically. Not saying it's ugly, but why don't you let me know what you think about it so far? In terms of mobility, he's not too bad. The front skirts are attached together. Of course, you could separate that if you want, and already that wants to fall off. You're able to bring the leg this far forward. If I bring forward the other one, you'll see that the knees don't really get in the way, so you can almost have him sitting down with his legs straight. There goes the other part. When you pop up this, you're able to bring the legs all the way up, so you could almost do the full splits there. You've already seen that the knees move really well, and it's the ankles that really do impress me. Other than these parts falling off, the arms, of course, are able to pivot all the way around because there's nothing in the way, and they rotate here, they bend up this much, and if you try to bring them across the body, you're able to bring them across this far, and yeah, it looks like he's talking to his watch. For height comparison, depending on the way you position the legs, he's pretty much right in line if you take away his antennas with the top of the 00 Quanta. Don't forget you can check out this review as well. Here he is beside the real grade 1/144th RX-78-2 granddaddy of all Gundams. Here on the right, of course the Zabanya is a little bit cheaper when you buy them, but they're both pretty good looking kits, and the height pretty much even when you take out the antennas. Like all the movie Gundams, like Quanta with its shield, Raphael with its CeraV2, this one is all about adding on these huge extra weapons. And remember, these are attached two in one. You put the single one up here at the front, and that's the one that can actually hold the weapon if you put it inside. We're just going to slide this in. You can put that anywhere. And then let's attach it into the back with this. Here's a shot of it from the back, and I thought I'd take a look at some of the weight issues to see if it has any. So what I've just done is uncoupled it there from the locking mechanism, but it's not falling on its own. Pretty solid ball joint there, so you're able to move this part in and out. But so far, whichever way that I've tried to put it, nothing has collapsed out of position. So hopefully that won't be a problem once we actually put it on the Gundam and put it up on an action stand. Oh, there it goes a little bit. Here we have Gundam Zabanya, ready to go to war to preserve his suburban way of life. Right now I've got the holsters up in the air, I'm just testing the weight issues, but I have to say, when you put this on, and of course I've just changed the pose a little bit, he does look a lot better. And that's just because before he was looking very skinny with just white and green blocks all over, whereas all of a sudden now you've got something to divert your eyes from the body, and it sort of adds a whole bunch of heft and width to this guy. But I think that the effect overall is pretty positive now. There is no denying, however, that sort of like Raphael with a Gundam sitting on its shoulders, this is by far one of the most unique mobile suit designs we've seen in lead-ish Gundams. When you're attempting to move these holsters around, something you have to be aware of is that this black part here, you may see that it has some ridges on there. So you're going to have to twist them out if you want to move this up. So don't expect to be able to pull them out and then twist them around. The only option you have then is spinning it around here, but you only have 3 places to lock it in, though it's a little bit hard to see. So you're not going to have all the posing possibilities in the world, but you do have a fair number. Really, there's no shortage of ridiculous poses you can do with this, even on the ground. As it spins around here, you can see that these are plugged into their bottommost of 3 positions, and it's no problem at all to have these resting on the ground, so of course you're not going to have any weight or balance issues because this guy's being propped up on 12 feet. If you're a fan of aerial poses, I think this 1/144th action base in green or whatever color you want is going to become your friend, because really there's not all those too many options you can do with the holsters on the ground that look cool, but let's see what he can do up in the air. The more time that I spend with this though, the more these parts do tend to want to fall out of position. So if you've got him sort of supermaning with these parts in the back, of course these parts are going to fall out of their locked in position here. So how does he look up in the air? I have to say, pretty cool. And this is where the weapons really stand out, of course. And by the time you add in the rifles, he's just loaded, it looks like. Then again, to get him into this kind of position, it was a little bit frustrating because a lot of parts want to fall off. I had the scopes fall off, I had the waist armor fall off, I had this part here on the back. These things were always falling out of position, and of course the action base isn't always the most solid, especially if you try to lean him forward Superman style. But with a little bit of fooling around, you can get those into the right place. But because they only gave you the 3 locking positions, you are somewhat limited, more than I expected. There's not necessarily a way that you can attach this second arm, but because he's got decent mobility, let's say 135 in the elbows, etc., and the shoulders pop forward because of the polycap mechanism inside the chest, you are able to get him looking down the barrel of the rifle, which looks cool. But again, the first thing that I'm noticing is that you're going to run out of ideas with things that you want to do with that, unless you want them just pointing forward or sort of back and fence-like, like this. If you want to start sending these out separately, of course you're going to get weight issues unless you take them off at the same time. I may become a little bit of a proponent of a less is more here, and as I've taken off some of the parts, everything of course gets easier to move around and it looks more realistic than just having 5 fence panels on each side if you just do something like 2. Anyway, the reason that I did this is that with these 2 on here on the back, of course we could do 4 and just send off these ones to make the shield, or vice versa, we could put 3 on here and send 2 out, etc. Again, I sort of like the look of 3 on here instead of the 5 perhaps, and but then again, the pistols really don't stack up compared to the rifles in terms of coolness. Maybe I should have him shoot with his hands sideways. Interesting models so far, but I have to say, just a tiny little bit of spoilers here. When you see the movie, what he did with these things was just wild. He could send them off, he could make squares out of them, he could make 3 squares and blast through all of them. Basically, they were all amazing. And in this model, you don't get that ability. A, because they chunked them into 2, 2, and 1, but also, in my case, because I don't have the high-grade Gunadm, I only have this clear part which does nothing for me. So all of a sudden, some of these cool boxes where you've got the shields out in front or you're doing different things, because they're blocked, you can't do it, and because I don't have a stand, I can't do that either. So that wraps up my review of the mobile suit. What do you think about it? Is there things that are disappointing to you, good for you? Anyway, stay tuned for the next part where I'll have my final review and a list of all the good and bad things about this. And don't forget to stay tuned for lots more reviews, including Raphael, 00 Quanta, and Harut. Anyway, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Like if you do, don't if you don't, subscribe if you haven't. And as always, let me know what you think, because that's always the most fun for me to go check out. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. By the way, anybody been watching Kamen Rider lately? Anybody remember my old WTF videos? It's a lot easier to do it with 1/44ths, I guess.